Hello friends, welcome to SK Studio. Today we are talking about Adobe Premiere Pro, so let's start.
When you start Premiere Pro, you will see a little welcome screen. Here you can select one of your previous projects or, what we're going to do, create a new one. So select the new project option. To create a new project, you will have to tell Premiere a few things about the project you want to create. First off is the name. Let's call this one Tutorial. Next, you can define the location for your project. Pick the folder where you want Premiere to save your project file as well as any temporary files that it creates. I'm just going to stick it into my project folder, which is Premiere Pro for absolute beginners. There are a number of other options that you can select, for example whether to use GPU acceleration for the playback of your video, which I would always recommend if you have this option available. Other than that, you can set things like the video and audio format, but I'm not going to go into that for now. Simply click OK. The Premiere Pro interface contains quite a large number of different panels. Now, depending on which version of Premiere Pro you are using, they may be arranged slightly differently or look slightly differently, but all of the panels I'm going to use for this tutorial you will have available in your version of Premiere Pro. Now that we've created a brand new project, the very first thing we need to do is import some media. There are two simple ways to import media files into your project. Locate the project panel in your interface and then simply double-click on some empty space within it. This will bring up the import dialog. In this dialog, you can browse your folders to locate the media files that you want to import. I've got a couple of them collected here in my tutorial folder. For now, I'm just going to select these 3 video clips here which come from our Zombie Hunter short film and hit open to import them. Bam! My files have now been imported into my project. If you can't see the icons for your media files, at the bottom of your project panel there are 2 little switches to decide whether you want to show the contents of this folder in a list or an icon view. In icon view, you can hover your mouse over these clips to scrub through the content of the video files. Let's quickly return to the list view. As you import more media into your project, it can get quite messy, so in Premiere Pro you can easily create folders to manage your media. To create a new folder, at the bottom of the project panel, simply click the new bin item. Let's be really creative and call this folder Footage. Then select the 3 video files we've just imported and drag them into the Footage folder. Bam! That's a little bit better organized. The frame rate, the pixel aspect ratio, and all sorts of other details, which can get a little bit confusing if you're just starting out. The easiest way to create a new sequence is actually to take one of your video files that you want to work with, hold down your mouse button and drag it onto the new item icon at the bottom of the project panel. Bam! Premiere Pro will create you a brand new sequence. The settings of this sequence will exactly match the video file that you used to create it. You will also notice that the video file that you dragged onto the icon has already been added at the end out of the video and throw the rest away. You may notice that this video actually has 2 layers. The reason there are 2 layers is because the top one is the image, the actual video, and the bottom one is actually the audio layer for this video. If you work with any video that has an audio track, Premiere Pro will import them and deal with them as if they were one item, and they will always be linked together. Let's go back a little bit and let's cut the video at this point just before I'm entering the shot. For that, in the toolbox you will find the razor tool. Simply select the razor tool and then click on the video layer that you want to split at the location you want to cut it. Bam! The video layer has been split in 2. You can hold down Alt and scroll on the mouse wheel to zoom in onto your sequence. Change back to the selection tool by selecting it from the toolbox. Let's move forward a little bit until just where I'm leaving the scene, about here. And let's select the razor tool again. You can also use the shortcut key C, and then cut our video clip at the current cursor location. Go back to the selection tool by pressing V on your keyboard, and you will see I now have 3 pieces. I have the before piece, I have the actual clip I want to keep, and I have a little bit of a tail that I want to throw away as well. Let's delete the tail and the beginning, so we're only left with the little section that we want to keep out of this video. Zoom back out by holding down the Alt key and scrolling with the mouse wheel. Obviously, this clip alone doesn't make a video, you need other clips as well, and let's drag some of the other videos that I've imported into the project into this sequence. Simply select the piece of media in your project panel and drag it anywhere into this sequence. This clip contains a first-person shot of me approaching the concrete pillar. Again, I probably don't want to use the whole clip, so let's cut out a little bit just as I'm approaching the pillar, maybe from here. Go back to the razor tool by pressing C, cut your clip, move forward till maybe about here, and because we still have the razor tool selected, cut the video layer again. As before, change back to the selection tool by pressing V, and then delete the beginning and the end of the video layer. If you zoom out and scrub through your sequence, you'll notice that there are large stretches of black, which is obviously not what we want. So let's take these snippets that we've cut out and drag them to the beginning of the sequence and align them properly. You will notice that Premiere Pro usually snaps clips together so they align perfectly. Move the timeline indicator back to the beginning of the sequence and play your sequence back by pressing space. I have a very small detail shot just of my shoes, and I just want to use this very short section where I'm about to make the move. Again, zoom in and cut out the piece that you want to keep. Now this little clip I actually want to insert into the middle of this particular one. I probably want to have the shoe macro shot appear just about here, just as I'm about to make the move. For that, create a new cut in your video layer, move this piece forward, and let's drag this little section right in the middle there and realign them. Let's rewind the video and play this back. Now, these edits really don't align at all. To fix this up, let's simply trim out a little bit of the section of the very last clip where I'm still standing at the pillar. You can also extend any clip in your sequence by dragging the corners left or right. Let's extend the very last clip a little bit towards the right so there's a little bit of a tail where I'm moving away from the pillar. Let's rewind and play this back. Now that's much better. It's not perfect, but I don't want to go into too much detail. I really just want to show you the basics of Premiere Pro. To blend from one clip into another. Premiere Pro contains a large number of transitions that you can very easily apply to the clips in your sequence. You will find these transitions in the Effects panel. In the Effects panel, you will find a number of folders for different audio and video effects. You will also find a folder called Video Transitions. Expand this folder and you will see a number of different categories for different types of transitions. One of the most common one under the Dissolve folder is probably the Cross Dissolve. The way to apply transitions to your clips is simply to select them and, like anything else in Premiere, just drag them onto your clips. You can apply them to the beginning of a clip, or if there's a transition between two different clips, just drag it onto the actual transition between the clips and let go. Bam! Let's zoom in a little bit. You will see that Premiere Pro added a Cross Dissolve to fade from one clip to the next. If you scrub through this transition, you will see that one layer fades very nicely into the next one. You can also control the duration of these transitions. Simply double-click on the actual transition and a little dialog box will pop up. The duration is currently set to 1 second. Let's change this to half a second. Since the video we are working with has actually been filmed at 24 frames per second, we need to enter a 12 to define half a second. Then hit OK. Immediately you will notice that the size of the Cross Dissolve has halved, and if you scrub through this effect now, the transition is only half as long. Let's zoom back out and let's add a little fade from black at the beginning of our video so that it fades in nicely from black. The transition for that is called Dip to Black, so simply select the Dip to Black transition and drag it onto the beginning of the first clip in your sequence. Bam! Let's play this back. Cool! Our video is now fading in from black. In the Effects panel under Video Effects, you will find a large range of different types of effects. I've got a whole bunch of different plugins installed that you may not see, but there's different stylizations, transformations, distortion effects, and all sort of other cool stuff that you can play with. One of the arguably most useful ones are the effects for color correction. I have separate tutorials available on my channel that talk about color correction and color grading, and I will put some links into the description of this video. Expand the color correction effects and search for the fast color corrector. Like anything else, in order to apply an effect to a clip, all you have to do is select it and drag it onto the clip that you want to apply it to. Let's drag it on the current clip that is under our timeline indicator. Within your interface, somewhere you will find an Effects Control panel. The Effects Control panel will show you the settings and the effects applied to the currently selected clip. If you select a different clip, for example, you will notice, well, we didn't apply fast color corrector to this one. But if we reselect the one that we applied the fast color corrector to, you will find the settings for the fast color corrector in the Effects Control panel. Every effect has a whole bunch of different settings that you can tweak and play around with. So for example, let's change this video color. You'll see it'll turn blue. If we drag this over here onto the blue side, let's scroll down a little bit, and maybe let's check out the contrast a little bit to make this look a little bit more dramatic. There's all sorts of cool stuff you can do, and there's a large range of different video effects that you can apply to your clips, play around with them and try them out and see what they do and just have some fun. Return to your project panel, and under the New Item tab, if you actually click this, you'll get a whole bunch of different options to create a sequence, which we've just did. But one of those options is a title, so let's select to create a new title. You will have to define a resolution as well as a few other settings for your titles, but for now, let's just leave this as default added. So let's mute the audio for the video layers that I've added. Finally, because the audio extends way past my video, let's trim the end down so everything ends at the same time. Let's go back to the beginning of the sequence and play this back. Right-click onto the little trackhead and select Mark Out. The area between these two markers has been defined as our work area, and when we now export the sequence, Adobe Premiere will know that this is the area of the sequence that we want to export. In order to export your sequence, go back to your project panel, make sure that the sequence you want to export is selected, and then go up into the main menu and select File, Export, Media. This will bring up the export dialog. On the left-hand side, you have a little preview window, and at the bottom, you have a little timeline. You can scrub through this timeline to verify that what you are about to export is what you actually want to export. Over on the right-hand side, you will find a large number of export settings, and yes, things can get a little bit confusing. In my opinion, however, there are only a few settings that you really need to care about. The first one is the format. This option defines the format of your output file. For example, it may be an AVI, it may be an MOV, an MP4, a GIF sequence, or any other form of output. For my exports, I usually prefer to select the H.264 option. Next, because I don't really want to set all of these options manually, I usually like to select a preset. Under the preset option, I'm not sure you can see this, there's a huge amount of different presets for different resolution, different frame rates, for different devices, and one of the options that have actually been added in the later versions of Premiere are options for YouTube. So I usually like to select the option YouTube 1080p HD. Next, you will define where to output the file to. Simply click on the output name. A small dialog box will pop up, and here you can define where you want to output the file to, and you can give it a name. For me, the name is fine. Next, very important, the two options to enable exporting the video track and exporting the audio track. If you go further down into the settings, you will see basic video settings, which determine the width and the height of the exported video. Mine is going to be exported at 1080p at full HD. And a little bit further down, there's one more setting that I usually care about, and that is my bitrate. The bitrate determines the level of compression. A very high bitrate will mean the video will get exported at very good quality, but it also means that the size of the exported video will be very large. By reducing the bitrate, you are reducing the quality of the exported video, but you are also reducing the file size. Personally, I usually leave the bitrate somewhere between 10 and 20. I find that it gives me a pretty good video quality at a reasonable file size. You may have to play around with the settings a little bit until you find options that, just work well for you. Finally, Premiere Pro will actually give you an estimate on what it thinks the file size will be like. Mine is currently estimated to be 25 megabytes. Now, this is actually pretty small, but remember, our video is really just about 20 seconds long. Once you're happy with all your settings, click the Export button. Adobe Premiere will now export your video, and this may take a while depending on the length of your video, the complexity, and the power of your computer.
Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe.